If you invested $1,000 into Shiba Inu on January 1st, that $1,000 would now be worth $500 million at the peak of Shiba Inu's price. And in the world of investing, an opportunity as asymmetrical and insane as this has rarely, if ever, actually been possible to take advantage of. And in this video, I'm going to show you a few foolproof methods to actually identify coins like Dogecoin and Shiba Inu before they actually moon. Now, there is, of course, a disclaimer before we get started into this video that I am not a financial advisor, and all of the information contained in this video is strictly for educational purposes only. And with that being said, make sure you do watch this video all the way until the end, because we're gonna be releasing some strategies that we've never actually made public before. So grab some popcorn, get comfortable in your chair, take your phone, throw it out the window so you can pay attention, and let's get into it. Now, step one that I always do when I'm looking for what coins I'm going to be interested in and which coins that I'm actually going to invest in myself, step one is always to make a list. Now, a good place to start is checking out all the different YouTubers that make awesome educational content about coins, about cryptocurrency, and then what you can do is make a list of all of the top coins that each of your favorite YouTubers actually are recommending, and then what you want to do is look for patterns amongst which coins all of your top favorite YouTubers are actually talking about. It's also important to understand the psychology of retail investors, FOMO, and how those generally affect prices, pumps, and also when coins are going to the moon. Now, we're gonna explain each of these things in detail and when to sell and when to buy to maximize your potential gains. But before we do that, do me two quick favors. Make sure that you tap the like button until it turns blue, and comment down below on this video altcoins. And if we get 1,000 comments that say altcoins on this video, then we'll release a crazy part 2 where we're gonna show exactly how we do technical analysis and how we actually decide exactly which coins to buy, when to buy them, and when to sell them for the maximum gain. Now, the first thing that I like to do when I'm actually looking at and doing due diligence on a potential investment into cryptocurrency, I like to look at what's called the price chart history. Now, ideally, what I look for is a coin that is trending up over time, right? The longer that it's trending up, the better. I also personally like to look for coins that have had at least a minor pop, because I've seen that with Dogecoin and Shiba and some of the most disproportional gains of all time when it comes to cryptocurrency, generally those coins have had at least a minor pop in the past, proving to people that that coin does have, the community behind it and the retail investor interest and marketing to actually have a potential much larger pop and pump and even a potential moon. Something that I like to look at first is whether or not a cryptocurrency potential investment is a coin versus a token, because it's much more difficult to actually create a coin because it actually requires its entirely own blockchain versus a token, which can be whipped up and created very quickly and easily on top of an existing blockchain such as Ethereum. Now, ideally, you would want to only invest into coins because it's much less likely that a coin would be some sort of short-term scam because of how much more difficult it is to actually create a coin and blockchain and everything that goes along with creating something of that type of infrastructure. Now, ideally, you want to be investing into coins that have insane communities and supporters behind them, constantly talking about them, posting on social media, sharing, and the more voracious and intense the community is, the more likely a coin is to actually going viral. Now, normally people do like to rally around things that entertain them, things that bring happiness to them, which is why two of the craziest examples of altcoins going to the moon have been around memes, because they're very easy to share, they're entertaining, they're fun, and people like talking about them. But it is important to remember a very old phrase when it comes to the stock market, which is buy the rumor, sell the news. And what I mean by that is generally by the time you hear about these coins in the press, in the mainstream media, it's already significantly too late to actually get involved and actually have the maximum gains. Because the thing that I've noticed with cryptocurrency is it's not the smartest investors that are the ones that make the best gains. Generally, it's the earliest investor. And so what you want to do to make sure that you have the information direct and first is actually subscribe directly to the mailing list and post notifications of the coins and projects that you are the most interested in, so that you can have that information first before it's actually published in the mainstream media, which at that point, it's obviously too late. I also recommend joining popular investing forums such as Wall Street Bets. I've heard of and actually have used myself a bot that looked inside of Wall Street Bets for the most commonly mentioned ticker symbols and cryptos, and then we actually bought those before they went viral because they were the ones that the most people were actually talking about and interested in. And that was the way that we actually predicted GameStop and AMC and Dogecoin were going to have runs, because we saw how many people were interested in them, talking about them, sharing them, and ultimately buying them, which is another important aspect of retail investor psychology, which we'll get into more later. Now, it's also important to understand the differences between small, medium, and large cap coins. When I say cap, I mean market cap, which is the share price multiplied by the outstanding shares. Or in the case of cryptocurrency, the price of a coin multiplied by the number of outstanding coins. Now, institutional investors, which are the largest investors in the world, like private equity, venture capital, or even multi-billion-dollar pension funds, have strict criteria when it comes to the due diligence that they're able to actually invest into. And when institutional investors pump a coin such as Bitcoin, where you see companies like MicroStrategy and Tesla buying billions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency and making significant gains doing it, those type of large investments from institutional or corporate investors I've seen generally have the ability to pump a coin for longer because they have so much more money, where a single buy can be billions or multiple billions of dollars and move the market by a significant percentage just from a single buyer. Now, small and mid market cap coins generally are pumped or even mooned by retail investors, which is why it's important to understand retail investor buyer psychology. And one of the most important aspects of retail buyer psychology is something called FOMO, which stands for fear of missing out. And I don't know about you, but it certainly physically pained me, gave me physical pain when I watched Shiba Inu go from $1,000 investment to being worth 500 million. If that's not fear of missing out, then I don't know what is. But generally, when I see retail investors pumping the price of a coin, there's usually a massive spike followed by a massive decline as newer and retail investors get scared that they're not going to be able to make their gains or keep any profit and panic sell on the way down after the initial spike. But with more seasoned investors who understand the ebb and flow of the market and the fact that the market always goes up and down, what you'll realize is the age-old stock market axiom that the market is simply a mechanism to transfer money from the impatient to the patient. With cryptocurrency, often it's the same way. But generally speaking, the larger market cap coins are a more safe investment. Those are the types of investments that institutional investors are allowed to make, due to their due diligence requirements. And the small and medium-sized market cap coins are significantly more risky and generally speculative in nature, which is why you should only ever invest into small market cap coins, the money that you are willing to lose the entirety of. It's also important to understand that generally the coins that have the most insane asymmetrical returns, like Shiba Inu, always start at a very, very low price. For example, 0.000000001 cent. Why do they do that? Because the human brain actually sees patterns and generally buys and sells stocks relative to those patterns in multiples of 5 or 10. But something that's important to understand is the human brain cannot conceptualize the difference between 0.0000001 with 7 zeros and 0.0000001 with 6 zeros, even though it actually is a 10 times increase in the actual value of the coin, because it's very hard to conceptualize the difference between one tiny fraction and another for the human brain that thinks in multiples of 5 or 10. But when you think about it, the math really does make sense here, because the smaller a market cap of a coin, the smaller total amount of new capital is required to actually drastically increase the valuation of that coin. But beyond just valuation, it's important to understand what's called pricing psychology. Now, we mentioned this briefly before, but generally people like to buy and sell coins in multiples of 5 or 10. Now, what do I mean by? Well, if you'll notice, many people kind of rallied behind the singular vision of getting Dogecoin to $1 or Shiba Inu to a certain point, right? That's because people mainly, for the most part, think in the same ways when it comes to these types of investments. And what I've found through my own research is when people rally around these certain investments, generally they only actually get to within 20 to 30% of those round numbers, like 1 or 10 or 100 or multiples of 10 again in that way. And what I mean by this is if you look at Dogecoin, for example, everyone was rallying behind Dogecoin being worth $1. But what we saw was Doge only ever made it to a highest of about 0.69 cents, which is about 30% off that high. And so what you'll notice is the smarter investors generally sell before a stock or crypto actually gets to those nice round numbers, which is something that you want to actually pay attention to in your own investment. And one of the most important parts of maximizing your investments is knowing when to actually sell. And this is a good question because the truth is no one knows. As the age-old saying goes, it's better to have time in the market rather than trying to time the market, right? And what that means is the longer you're actually in the market, generally over the long term, if you do your due diligence correctly, you'll have better gains than trying to time the market, as no one knows exactly what's going to happen. But what I've seen for myself and many other successful investors who are my friends and people that we bounce ideas off of, is people who have diamond hands are generally much better off than those who have paper hands, because like we mentioned before, the stock market and cryptocurrency market in many cases is simply a mechanism from transferring money from the impatient to the patient. But what I found has worked especially well for me is only ever buying into cryptocurrencies that I would be completely happy and comfortable holding for 5 or 10 years or longer. And I know that might sound cliche, but it actually is important to be able to sleep at night and be able to be happy and live your life normally and not constantly be stressed out that you're gonna lose 100% of your money in these kind of, up and coming or quick or, small altcoins that, pop and then disappear a few days later. And you've probably heard about the worst case scenario, which of course is losing all of your initial capital. And this is especially true with cryptocurrencies, especially with tokens, as anyone can make one very quickly, pump that with a lot of marketing, and then pull the rug and disappear practically overnight. And the ironic thing is, if everybody has the same data, if everybody has the same access to do technical analysis, to talk about price resistance, all of these different things, then what that would tell you is that logic wouldn't always work, because everyone using the same logic would be doing the same thing. Well, my general rule as a diamond hand investor myself is once I put in an investment, say for $10,000, let's say that the coin, went up, things are great, up to 20,000. What I would do is I would pull out my initial investment and then let the gains, or the house money actually ride over the long term, because I would only ever invest in the project in the first place if it's something that I did believe in for the long term. And it's also important to remember another of Warren Buffett's quotes, which is to be greedy when others are fearful and to be fearful when others are greedy. So when your 7-year-old niece or your janitor at your school is talking about how you need to buy cryptocurrency, then maybe that's the right time to sell. But all of these things considered, by far the most important criteria that I actually use to make all of my purchasing decisions is something called long-term potential. Now, how do you gauge long-term potential? Well, the first way is you want to look at what other sophisticated investors such as venture capital and private equity are spending significant amounts of money in. Generally, they'll have better access to data, they'll know more about the teams, they'll have spent longer actually inquiring about the project, and so trusting some of those venture capital companies that you actually know and love, especially the ones that have had a significant amount of success over the past few decades, is a great place to learn more and to actually do due diligence. And it's often said it's impossible to actually know exactly when the next crypto is going to pump and explode and go to the moon, but the truth is a lot of these actual coins and projects have a lot of the same symbols and markers and patterns when it comes to recognizing when a cryptocurrency is ready to explode. But the problem is it's very difficult to recognize those patterns unless you have years of experience actually doing this. That is the reason that we created the #1 Discord investing community in the entire world that for right now is completely free. You can see it down below in the description, the first link, where we're actually going to post our exact buys and plays and show all of the profits and all of the potential losses that do come along the way, so you can follow along, you can make the same trades if you choose to. Of course, you would want to do your own due diligence, but this is going to become the best investing community in the entire world, and it's completely free. First link down in the description inside of our Discord channel. Personally, I don't try to actually catch a coin right before it pumps or goes to the moon. How I invest is I only invest into coins that I wouldn't mind holding 5 or 10 years. I also do a lot of dollar cost averaging whenever there is a significant downturn in the crypto market because of a comment from Jerome Powell or China banning crypto for the 20th time. That is when I like to buy and swing trade trade on cryptos that I believe are for sure gonna go up in the next 5 or 10 years, so I don't feel a significant amount of risk actually investing into those even when there is really red markets, because of things that ultimately won't matter to crypto that much in the long term. Now, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on the notification bells, and comment down below this video altcoins, and hang around because we have a playlist of brand new cryptocurrency and investing videos coming to you live in 3, 2, 1. See you there.